What's up, everybody? Giving a little update on my 2000 Grand Am GT. Here it is. It's been parked in my garage for several years now. It's a little update for people that might not know. About 6 or 7 years ago, back when I lived in Florida, had to do a couple of engine rebuilds. While I was tuning it, I had 36-pound GTP injectors in it for a while. Put a bigger cam in it. Ended up putting 42-pound Lucas injectors in it. Was having some trouble dialing in the fuel trims and whatnot, and I was wondering maybe if it was the spray pattern for the injectors. So I switched back to the 36 pounds to see how those did. Didn't really make a whole lot of difference. Took it to the dyno to do some tuning on it, and the 36-pound injectors were getting maxed out in like the last 1,000 RPM of the rev range. Fuel trim leaned out about a point, was going from like 12.2 to 13.2. So a little on the lean side for, boosted engine. Not really bad. Wasn't getting any detonation or anything. Made 330 horsepower at the wheels. So the next weekend I took it to the racetrack. Ended up having some tuning problems with the transmission shift points though. Basically the wide open throttle shift points were set at the wrong speed, because at part throttle it does it on a throttle versus RPM map, and at wide open throttle it does it on a throttle versus speed map. And I was using an Excel spreadsheet that a calculation was set up wrong on, so it didn't calculate the correct speed for the shift points. So basically when it got to red line, it was bouncing off the rev limiter a couple of times before the vehicle would coast up to the speed that it was supposed to shift at and actually grab the next gear. Didn't realize this until the second pull down the track, after it got lean from cutting fuel on the rev limiter and blew both my head gaskets. So upon tearing down the engine, ended up finding I had a bent rod. Nothing broke as far as the internals, just the bent rod, but did find a bad push rod that had worn into the cup on one of the lifters, and I found that the billet cam that I was using had worn down half the teeth on my oil pump drive gear. So to make a long story short, had the engine rebuilt, found that the cylinder wall clearances were at the top of the spec, so I had them overbore it, 0.2 over. Put oversized pistons in with new rings. Rebuilt the whole thing. Put a stock profile sealed power cam back in, which is a solid core versus the hollow pressed on lobes that the stock engine has. Kept the ported heads, kept the LS6 valve springs and all that stuff. Just went back to a stock cam profile. Pulled the 36-pound injectors back out. Put the 42s back in. Didn't have any problems with maxing out the injector pulse width then. So I had plenty of fuel, just moving a little less air with the stock cam profile. Took it back out after the first engine rebuild to do some more tuning. Ended up having some problems. Oil pressure was a little low. Come to find out that the metal in the oil from the cam gear wearing had also worn out the inside of the oil pump, so my oil pressure was a little bit low, and that ended up wiping out my bottom end bearings. So I had to have it rebuilt again. Had the rod ends align honed with the main caps, and had the rod bolts and the main cap studs replaced with all ARP hardware to keep that stuff all in line. And pop the hood for a second here. So there's the engine all back together again. Everything been running good. Drove it for several years like that. Was using it as my daily driver actually for a bit, and then 3 years ago ended up getting in a little rear end collision with somebody in some stop and go traffic, and kind of messed up my core support. You can see it's a little bent there. Otherwise, no other damage to the car, no damage to the engine. Just haven't had a chance to get it fixed yet. Moved into a new house with a new garage. As you can see, it's pretty bare. No heat, no insulation. Floor's not done. I don't have a welder or air compressor anymore, so I haven't been able to fix it. Been spending a lot of money on the house trying to upgrade things. I do have some of the sheet metal upper and lower halves of the core support. New one of these. I got new headlights and a new headlight panel already. Basically just need to get that upper core support fixed, straightened out, repainted. Get this new fender repainted here, and then it'll be ready to go back on the road. I got a little bit of work to do on the front bumper too. Everything on the engine's been running good though. Starts, runs, drives okay. Haven't been able to do any tuning lately because I'm having a problem with the interface for my digital horsepower power tuner that I bought back in the day. For those that aren't familiar, the interface on that uses a serial port to hook up to a laptop, which no laptops come with that anymore. The last one you could get one with was a Windows XP machine, and they don't make any laptops with a serial port anymore. And after Microsoft stopped supporting Windows XP, right before they did that, I updated everything on my laptop, and then the last time that I tried to use my tuner, it didn't work right. So I don't know if it's actually a problem with my interface or a problem with one of the Windows updates that went through. I can still clear DTC codes and I can still scan and data log, but I can't read DTC codes and I can't read and write to the PCM. So recently I bought a new laptop, Windows 7 Pro machine, that I should be able to run programs in Windows XP mode, and I bought myself a serial to USB adapter. So I'm going to give that a try again. See if I can actually interface and read and write to the PCM properly. If not, the company that made the interface actually makes a newer version that's USB based instead of a serial port. So I might buy one of those and see if I can make that work. I know a couple people have used them with DHP. I kind of want to stick with the DHP since I already spent the money on it, and it's open source software now that allows me to tune multiple platforms without buying extra licenses. And I've already used it for this car. I have a pretty extensive tune already. Spent a lot of time on it. I'm already familiar with the software. I kind of don't want to have to buy, spend $600 on an HP tuner, pro package with the interface to data log my wideband oxygen sensor and all that kind of stuff, and have to learn how to use brand new software all over again. So gonna see if I can make that work. If not, my only other option is to go with HP, but then I'm gonna have to get a new stock PCM because if there's any changes from the stock bin file, HP won't allow me to upload those. It'll basically say it's a non-compatible file that I haven't bought a license for, and they won't allow me to tune based off what I already have. So anyway, it's just been sitting in my garage for the last 3 years, sitting on my old winter wheels and tires with my old snow tires on it since I'm not driving it, and a battery tender on the charging it. So let's give her a start here. Got the wideband sensor. Fires right up, first try. cold right now. Oil pressure's good. Fuel pressure, oil temp, boost vacuum gauge. Here's my new ride, that 2018 Regal Tourex that I'm driving daily now. And there's the back of my car. Need to get a new exhaust. I think the packing on my muffler's gone bad and the thing's almost as loud with the cutout open or closed. Yeah, that's about it. I'm hoping this summer I can start doing some work on the body here, get this thing back on the road.